Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 Idlewild Board of Commissioners meeting. It's 9 a.m. and the first thing we'll do is call the meeting to order and approve the agenda. I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the agenda.
Second.
Jeff, the DPW foreman, Jeff DiMartino, will not be here today because he's still cleaning up after this 7-inch snowstorm that Idlewild had. And winter is here, he's helping people through the icy parking lot. Maybe somebody should call upstairs and say a truck should swing through here with sand so we can get it back out of here.
Yeah.
Morning, Doug.
Morning.
There's no reason for a non-public session at the end of this meeting today, that I know of?
Not that I know of.
All in favor of approving this agenda as is?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2-0.
Mm-hmm.
Wood is on its way in from
Yep.
helping people in the parking lot. Approval of the minutes. I'll make a motion that we discuss and approve the minutes of March 18th, last week. Second on that?
Second.
I have a couple of things, so as
Okay.
I pull it up.
Yeah.
Do you have anything on this, Nancy?
I do.
Why don't you start with it?
Under signature items,
Mm-hmm.
bullet number 1, the last line should say offset taxes.
Okay, thank you.
Unless somebody else came up with a different way to word it.
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
That makes perfect sense, yeah, yep.
Okay, and then under Mark's Commissioner's report, bullet number 2, Grissom. There's no, you don't have the R in it.
I saw that too.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Spelling.
Excellent.
And that's all I had.
I found one beyond, spelling one beyond Nancy. Is
Yeah.
under Nancy's report, first bullet point, it says Sheriff's Office. Sheriff only has one R in it.
Thank you.
That's a hard one. The only thing I'd do is make it a little clearer on the number 10 with non-public sessions. Mark makes a motion to move into a 91A, move into a non-public session under 91A3, Roman numeral 2,
Okay.
little c.
Yep.
And they covered all the other ones.
Okay.
All in favor of the minutes as modified, say aye.
Aye.
3-0 on the minutes. Next we move to approval of the manifests. We have an operations manifest for $2,711.89. And we have heating the government buildings and heating the water system services buildings. We have a highway equipment fuel expenditure of $356 to Eastern Fuel, which is the fuel that they bring to our DPW2 garage.
Yes.
But there's also a fuel bill from the state of New Hampshire for $817.29.
Yeah, for the trucks.
So, I want to ask Jeff, when is it that we refuel the trucks off our tank at DPW2, and when do we refuel by driving out to the state barn and refueling at their pumps?
I think it depends on whether it's the daytime and what's going on. If they're in the middle of a snowstorm, they're gonna use
The tanks.
the tank at DPW2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they're able, during a regular day, they will go to the state shed.
Because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have regional dues to the Municipal Association for $640.
Yeah,
Mhm.
finally.
And there was a long bill from Napa Auto Parts.
Well, many bills.
For a total of $690. And I was gonna have a discussion of an inventory system, once we see tools are being purchased, like there was a grinder
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah,
this
right.
invoice. That's
Yep.
that's a $200 tool.
Mhm.
And they were asking if we ever had an engraver, and we did.
We did,
So we
but we can
need
get
to,
a new one.
we can put it on future agendas that we wanna talk to Jeff about having an inventory control. And I could dig up the video of a previous board speaking against having an inventory system for DPW assets, which now is really
Yeah.
beyond ironic.
Yes.
So, any further discussion on this operating manifest of $2,711.89? All in favor of approving it?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0 on approving that manifest. Then we have a water systems manifest that has $0 on it,
Right.
so I'm
Nothing spent.
assuming that's a placeholder. And the DPW report, they did a good job of cleaning up the roads. The roads look wet, but the temperature's 32 according to my vehicle, and I didn't feel any black ice on the way here. I measured 7.3 inches on my snowboard, and I reported to National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency. And it got compressed down because it drizzled last night, and the weight of it went back down to 6 inches. So it's nice looking. It's nitrogen for the Indian Mountain Golf Course, free fertilizer. And hopefully it melts fast. We may get another storm, little storm tomorrow, another one maybe
Over the
Saturday.
weekend somewhere, yeah.
So March is a winter month in Idaho's. I
Well, it
say.
hasn't been until now.
Yeah, we got one at the beginning of the month too. That was after we had warm weather.
I thought everything was in February, and then March we got
No,
pretty much
we had one. They were all night at the beginning of March. Okay, so any other comments on DPW before we move to water and scheduled appearance? No? So at 9:07, we'll move to scheduled appearance. So we have an actual scheduled appearance by Charles Morton of 10 Wallsbud and his wife, whose name is
Sandy.
Sandy. Welcome.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
I'm looking for some advice from the commissioners, I think is the best way to put it. Recently, a piece of property, where we are on Wallsbud, I think all of you probably know, where the last 300 feet of Wallsbud Road coming up from Forest Shore. And 20 years ago, we built the house and originally intended to have that last 300 feet reclassified. At the meeting that we came to, we had put a warrant article into that effect, and just before us were two warrant articles. One was requiring that a specification be taken up by the DPW to come up with a specification for changing a Class 6 road to a Class 5 road. And then the next one was, until the specification was in place, no roads would be reclassified, and then came our request for reclassification, so it obviously got voted down. And when the final specification came out, the person that had done all the site work for us said, geez, to meet that specification for that 300 feet, you'd be better off to just pay somebody to plow it.
Wow.
So that's what we've been doing for the last 20 years, and it worked out fine. When he regraded the road, which the commission gave us the ability to regrade the road and kind of maintain that grading. So I have a letter to that effect from 20 years ago, but he did a pretty good job on the first time around. It was Bob Whirling had done all of our site work, and we've really had no problem. He's just plowed for us for the past 20 years. But about a month ago, someone new purchased a piece of property almost directly across from us. So it creates somewhat of a, in my mind, somewhat of an issue in the fact that up until this point, I was just making the decisions for us to plow or not plow, or if he needed to come up and do a little bit of grading or something like that. It was all, for me, it was all through Bob Whirling, and I'd just call Bob and say, hey Bob, you need to come up and make sure I'm plowed, or he'd give us a bill for the winter, etc. And so now, I'm not quite sure how that'll all work, because I now have a neighbor who I don't think we don't own the road, you own the road, so I don't think we can create like an association or something. I'm not even sure that we could legally do that. But I'm looking for some advice from all of you, because I'm sure there is somewhere else in Edelweiss that same situation occurs, and how it might be best handled.
And do you know for sure that this person that purchased is gonna build?
Well, I did meet him one morning. He was up right after he purchased the property. And I guess really what kind of started my concerns was that when I talked to him, he had everything handled. And he had only bought the property about 3 days before that. And I said to him, well, there's a lot that goes on. I said, number one, this is a class 6 road. I said, so where you're standing, my wife and I have been paying to plow this 300 feet of road in our driveway for the last 20 years. And that, right, and I said to him, and we've graded it a couple of times. I said, but, he said, oh, well, I guess we'll have to create some kind of an association. And I thought, well, that all sounds good, but it also, I'm not even sure, like I said, that we could do that. It's not our road to create an association on. And number two, when somebody starts telling me that he's already got his septic system approved and his driveway permit approved, and I went through this 20 years ago, I know there's steps that go through, and it's 2 different entities, being the village and the town, and then you throw in the state for a septic system. I kind of got the impression that he may be a little bit of a difficult person to deal with.
Are you attached to the water system?
Have we
Yes.
what?
Are you attached to the water
Oh,
system?
yes. That got put in before we even built that. Well, while we were building the house, the water system, actually the village did the system.
So we don't have any application for a driveway permit,
Not that I'm aware of.
and we haven't seen an application to attach to the water system, so that's just some facts that we have off the
Yeah.
top of our head. As far as you working out an arrangement where you, for example, split the cost of plowing it, there's nothing that stops you from having an agreement with however many people who are on the Class 6 road that want it plowed.
Okay.
So you can work out any arrangement you want. There's even examples of, we are a village district, we're a municipality under New Hampshire law. We're not a unit of government has the town of Madison over us. We're separate, even though we're in the political boundaries.
Okay.
And there are like, in the high 90s of village districts all over the state. A lot of people in the state don't know that. They don't know what village districts are. And there's one village district that is one road, I forget what town it's in. And it's just so they have a checkbook, they have a checking account just for the plow guy. So they actually formed a government. Now they're under all the rules of the state of New Hampshire, which requires an audit, which is way more than what it costs to plow that road for winter. So it's like, that's not the route you want to go on. And I don't know of any village district within a village district, but if it ever happened, it would be in Conway, because they had like 6 of them at one point.
Right.
So the answer to your question is you can work out an arrangement. You're not forming any kind of organization under New Hampshire law. You're just working out an arrangement with your neighbors to pay a contractor to do certain things.
Okay. How would we deal with, as he goes through construction? First of all, I'm assuming mud season, when you limit the travel, applies to that road as well.
You can't get to that road with a
Without-
vehicle over
right.
5 tons.
But if he does any damage to the road, who would he be responsible to? The town? I mean, the village?
We just asked the voters to give the commissioners the power to specify the zoning or the ordinance for highways and parking back, because one of the things that we experienced last year was a high number of contractors to property owners modifying our Class 5 roads by putting 1.5-inch stone across the entire width of the stone in front of their lot, we had a contractor modify the grade of a Class 5 road. So you're here to ask what control we have over the Class 6 roads. We're trying to gain control over the Class 5 roads. So in the process of doing that, if we get time to work on that this summer,
Yes.
we have many things to do.
Yeah.
We will try to incorporate Class 6 roads into the definition of what controls we have. Would have mentioned that we should have significant fines for people that modify the roads that cause a problem for the village. It's a little different because we're not allowed to maintain Class 6 roads by definition, state law.
Yep.
And our attorney told us we have little control over what Class 6 property owners can do to a Class 6 road. We have Class 6 houses on Class 6 roads that want us to have our backhoe come and open up the snowbank that our plows create as they're doing the Class 5 roads. And we don't do that. You know, the Class 6 property owner has to maintain everything about that Class 6 road.
Right.
So I don't know if that answered your question, but we might be able to fix that, get more control over it this summer.
Right.
But right now, we just got control over the Class 5 roads back from a petitioned warrant articles that took it away from the previous Board of Commissioners and put
Put it on the legislative body.
Yeah.
So that we could only make any changes at an annual meeting.
We'd have to wait till every March for the voters
Yeah.
to make any changes to the ordinance. But they changed that where the state law puts it in the hands of the legislative body, the governing body, which is us in this village district. So now it's back to the way it always was from the beginning of Idaho's, and we haven't got to begin working on that yet.
And he will have to apply for a driveway permit,
Yeah.
and that will go with the entire driveway ordinance. It will be inspected, we'll be up there looking at it when we get that and checking, and most certainly if there are specific things that we need to be looking for, we pretty much have it outlined in the ordinance, for the driveways.
Okay.
So he is gonna have to do
That's
that.
probably a little bit reassuring, because one
Yeah.
of my issues has been, there's a tremendous amount of water that no one really recognizes unless you've watched it in the spring come down off the hill above. And Bob Whirling spent a lot of time putting in a pretty good gutter system to move the water so that it didn't destroy the Class 6 plus the Class 5 down below. And one of my concerns is he puts a driveway in and they just fill in the ditch, and now I'm arguing, but I know you
We
guys
won't-
are
we won't
aware
let
of
that
those
happen.
culverts
Oh,
and
yeah.
how
Yeah, we know.
beneficial they are.
Yep.
so.
How often are you at your house? You're not full-timers, right, Jerry?
No,
Okay.
we're up, at this time of year, we're up almost every weekend, because the whole family skis, and then during the summer, our family is, at least once a month we're there, but.
Okay, so if you see any work beginning, just let us know, because
Okay.
sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes we've learned of they're starting the driveways and they haven't put in an application yet. And
Well,
so-
the only thing I've seen that he has done, he apparently had a machine clear a spot where he said to me he did testing for,
For the
I'm
septic?
assuming his septic system.
Yeah.
So he probably did put some test piping in, but
No, they just dig a 10-foot hole.
is
And
that all they
test
They
do?
pour water in it and they time how long it takes the water to be absorbed into the ground.
Okay,
Perk test,
yeah,
percolate.
yeah. So they don't even look for water table depths or anything? I just know
They
in
kind
Rhode
of do
Island, that's what
it,
they
if the
do.
water table's high and they dig the 10-foot hole and the water it fills up,
Yeah,
there's no use pouring the water in there and timing it. It's like, this is wetlands and this has, then they would apply for an above-ground septic system if the soil types are right,
okay.
big mound
Yeah,
type thing.
yeah. So
Which costs-
As you said,
it looks like he
as
may
a
have
side,
done that.
Yeah.
But he did tell me he hadn't even done a survey, so I know that for the driveway permit,
Yep.
he has to have a survey.
He will need
For
to have a
building
full
permit.
For a
survey.
septic system, he has to
Yep.
have a survey.
For
so-
building permit,
Right.
yeah, and so he might have started to make sure that whether or not he would be able to put a septic in,
Possibly,
Maybe,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's the only thing I've seen so far, is that he did run a machine in. They cleared enough trees to get a machine to the back side of the property, and I couldn't even, it's been snowing, so I wasn't going out there to see if there was a pit or anything, and they probably filled it back in anyway.
I haven't been up there since the construction started on your house, which you say 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So if
That's
I'm
frightening.
So if I'm walking up Waldbutt,
It's on the left.
yeah, it's the very last house on the left before you really reach the Visp Road that goes up to West Bergamo.
Yeah.
Okay. So the new house is right across the street from you, so that's going to be in between, what was that, East Bergamo?
Yes, East
Yeah.
Bergamo at the bottom of the
Yep.
hill. And then
Loops
you're
around.
Probably about 600-700 feet up on Waldsbud. But
Yeah.
when you get to our house, beyond that is really just a cart path now.
Yeah,
It's pretty much grown in.
okay. And the water main goes up that far? They're
It
calling
goes
it,
right to our property.
Okay.
Our uphill
interesting,
property.
okay. This map is calling it Visp Road, which is not, it's like Waldbutt to here, and then it becomes Visp.
Yeah, I believe you changed it to VISP, having to do with the 911 system.
There was a
Yes.
gentleman that lived further down the hill from you on the other side of the road, and he had a heart attack, and the rescue people went to follow their map to West Bergamo, and they were at the top end, which was class 6, so there was a delay to get to the other end
Around.
and go to his house. So we worked with the town and we decided to make it clear to the rescue people that the part that you live on will be called West Bergamo, and the part at the top would be Visp, so the maps would show them, and Google doesn't have the map
Yes,
right.
they haven't
Yeah.
updated.
Luckily, the emergency people don't use Google, hopefully, because we changed the name of the roads to make this easy, and they screwed it up. But, so, what used to be East Bergamo all the way, now is Visp at the top, because there's one house up there.
Walsbud.
No, at the top it's Visp.
Yes. No, but you were saying East.
Walsbach,
Yeah.
Walsbach. Sorry.
And I think you're right. I think Bergamo is the same way. It goes up and then ends.
It turns class 6 and connects
Right.
into class 6 Omega, and
Yeah.
even the tax maps of the town are a little incorrect on that.
And actually, the same thing happened at our house. We had an incident one time, we had friends over and somebody passed out and I wasn't sure what was going on with him, and we called 911 and we waited and waited. And they came from the top of the hill all the way through the woods to get down to us.
But it was
like-
summer, so they could actually make it down,
But I was a
couldn't even
nurse
imagine
and
a
started
rescue.
CPR on him and I,
Yeah.
whatever, and he was okay, but that was so scary waiting for that night, for the ambulance.
Mhm.
And that, I'm like, why did they come down through there? It was like, oh my God. So, that was a good thing, doing that, really,
Yeah.
changing that.
Yeah, we haven't had an incident since, so.
I'll go with.
So I think probably one of my biggest concerns was the construction work that he'd be doing and who would be monitoring it. I know the town would monitor the building, but I don't really care about his building. I care more about that he doesn't affect our road in a negative way, because then we'll be arguing back and forth as to who caused the problem, and I don't need that
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. Nope.
So
Nope,
just to
that'll
be
be
clear,
us.
we have control over the driveway, just the driveway.
Yeah,
And we have control, we're gonna get more control over what happens to the class 5 road. And it's tricky with state law as to what we can do about class 6 roads, because we can't maintain them, and we can't inhibit the property rights of the people on class 6 roads, is the way I'd frame the way the state looks at class 6 development.
well, I know that when we built the house, the commissioners had said to us then that, because we asked them to change the classification, or could we change it, and they said, well, that they really weren't interested in hearing about changing it until they actually saw us under construction. And unfortunately, that put us into the next meeting, and I think it was Ralph Lucian had put those other 2 warrant articles in, so at that point, they were perfectly, the original commissioners in place at the time we started construction were perfectly willing to just make the change to a class 5 once we had it graded out, but then when that warrant article passed on the next meeting, it kind of put us out of it. And when the specification is a little bit more than what was, what we were willing to invest in the road, because it's a pretty good specification, but like I said, when Bob Whirling saw it, he said to me, I could plow your driveway for 25 years and you won't spend that much money, so that's what we ended up doing. Anyway, that's really what I was looking for, was just to have some thoughts and understand better what we might be looking at for issues as he moves forward, if he does move forward.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming he's going to. He sounded like he was all set to build a house. But
My experience in the last 47 years being here is that when someone develops that far up a Class 6 road like you did, and it has the water main run up, you've made it more appetizing for everyone else to become your neighbors, because
Right.
you did the groundwork.
well, we've had several people that live further up from us, and they asked us about the process and whatever, and I said to them, well, probably the most difficult thing for you is going to be that
You said live up, they own up.
They
They
own,
own-
they own, but they
Own
were,
empty lots.
they were talking about building
Yes, sir.
above us. And so I explained to them that it's a Class 6 road, and right now they have no water at their house, and number one, and number two,
No power.
you have no power, but that's usually an easy one to solve. I said, but we plow the road. So we own everything on the road from the bottom of the hill, and that kind of, they said, oh, well, I don't want to get involved with that, but this guy sounds like he may,
Wait a minute, how much?
you know, he purchased the property, so I'm assuming he's gonna build.
Here, this other map from Apple is better. Do our guys plow any of Wald's-Butt up to a certain point?
Yes.
Yeah, the Class
They
5
plow the
part.
first probably 400 feet.
Okay, so there's a house on the corner that's Jean and what's her
Yeah.
face?
yeah.
And then there's
Noel.
two more houses, Noel, right?
Gene and Denise.
Denise.
And there's one house right above them that they plow right to that driveway.
Log cabin?
No, but on the opposite side, of just above the log cabin.
But on your side, there's another
That's
two
Class
houses.
5 road.
Right.
That's always been Class 5.
Okay, okay.
Right.
So it ends about here, Class 5 ends about here. And I'm assuming-
If you
assuming
show
that's Charles's.
property lines there, I'm told that, there used to be a sign there that said Class 6 road beyond this point, but I don't know what happened to it, so. But anyway, right at his end of his property line, the second house on the left-hand side
That's it,
is
okay.
apparently where the Class 6
Right.
starts.
That makes sense. Okay.
Anything else we could answer for you?
No, I think that's it. And I'll be happy and sure to make sure I let you know if I see construction going on, so you'll at least know to
Yes.
be watching.
Well, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's gonna be kinda hard. He needs a permit for the driveway.
Well,
Right.
no, that's what I was saying. If you see
wouldn't
something,
be
just
the
let us
first-
know, because
yeah.
if we don't have driveway permit, we
Yeah.
go after them.
Yeah, he wouldn't be the first person
Yeah.
that starts without having a permit
Yeah.
and all the proper documentation in town,
Oh,
so
boy.
we will, we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Nice meeting
Thank
you.
you.
Hey,
Nice meeting you all.
So, at 9:29, we will go to administrators report.
I don't have anything.
SAM, the unique entity number that FEMA's looking for.
Mhm.
I think you sent an email saying that you think the number has been renewed.
It is. I sent an email about it to you guys.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that maybe the bank account information that they want?
We have to change the bank account information, for sure, because it's most definitely either obsolete at this point because we no longer have those bank accounts.
So the Homeland Security people are telling me it's important that there's every I is dotted and T with that, because if they issue a reimbursement check to us and there's any problem with the SAM system, then
I don't know
It
what
really
to
gets
tell you.
messed up.
I
I'm
get
wondering
back
if
what I get back and.
you have a contact that you got after we made it past a certain
Yeah, there's
point.
a gentleman, I saved his contact information.
So as best we know, the only thing that we could do is get the banking information in there.
Updated.
Does that look difficult? Kate?
I haven't done, I'm so busy now with the ADP getting that stuff in that I haven't done anything else on Sam,
Okay.
unfortunately, so.
We got an extensive number of letters from Homeland Security
Yeah.
about the
Mhm.
FEMA, and I don't know if you looked at any of that at all. I didn't have a whole bunch of time to study it, but I glimpsed at it. I locked on to a checkbox on a form that says that we're not eligible for payment. But the
Yeah.
letter starts off saying, we're pleased to announce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So they send us forms that they fill out. And if you're trying to figure out what's going on by looking at the form, you see a checkbox on a form that means something to them. But it only has the words is that we're not eligible for payment. Now?
But then they said, check the fact sheet.
Right.
So it looked like there was a whole, obviously there's a bunch of steps that need to be taken to make you eligible.
So it's one of these things is that I have a meeting scheduled with FEMA and Holly Evans of Homeland Security. So now I have a team of 3 young women, which is making this so much easier because of the way they communicate.
Mhm.
Is much better than the team of 5 that I had all last summer. And I'll be able to go over this because,
Yeah.
as you're pointing out, they
Mhm.
send 4 documents, 4 elaborate documents,
Right.
and they're each referring to each
To
other.
each other.
And I'd be wasting a whole bunch of time when they can just tell me because they work on this stuff
Mhm.
all the time. I submitted a worksheet to get reimbursed for Barden and Bergdorf, and I haven't heard back from them on my second version. They saw that I made some mistakes with the first one because I had to move stuff around after I learned about the way we use equipment and didn't get any invoices for it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I submitted it, straightened out, and I haven't heard back from that. I might ping them to see if they didn't see any issues. I can move on to road widening, putting gravel down and ditching. So that was off in the administrator's report about Sam.
Is your meeting this Thursday?
It is. I think it's at 10. Used to be at. Anyway, anything else on the administrator's report? Yes.
Would you like me to start thinking about the process of a TAN?
I was going to bring that up on the mind. We can talk about that
Okay.
now.
All right.
It occurred to me, I think last week I said I was going to contact the attorney in Maine that we used, that did a good job for a much lower price than what we were being quoted by. And then I thought, isn't it the order that we start by asking Northway Bank? We should check to see with Northway Bank if anything has changed, like their name, and any rules they have about 10 notices.
Well, that's what I was thinking about, to give
So-
them a contact, a call and see what's going on with it.
So does that make sense to everybody, is that we
Mhm.
start by asking Camden
bank what they
National
want.
Bank
Yep.
Yeah.
whether they're gonna give us a 10 and what they're gonna require. Hopefully it's the same people.
I hope so too.
I understand that Camden National gave all of the Northway employees that were coming over under the name change a little raise just to,
A little incentive.
Stick
yeah, just
around.
to calm everybody, and they stopped all vacations until the transition was made,
Oh,
which I guess they now can go on vacation starting in April. I just learned this yesterday by somebody who's married to a Northway Bank employee that gave me the
Well,
rundown.
I'll contact my contact and see if she's still there.
Yes,
How's that?
and then this time, and I think we're in a pretty good cash flow situation. We have to re-erect the cash flow report that we used to do monthly.
Yeah.
It has the big bills, giving us the heads up on, and see what our burn rate is. With the cost increase in just about everything, the old sheets might show us that what we burn each month, which used to be 50 grand, 55,000 a month. Might be up
The
from
thing
there.
the thing that is a stickler sometimes is that insurance bill that comes in July
yeah, that one,
for
yeah.
$64,000.
Yeah.
Primex.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
and any loan payments and stuff, that
Yeah, the second
it's nice to have all
payment, yeah.
those right on a sheet. you know, to know when they're coming up.
I'll
Yeah,
do
I
it
have
if
that
somebody
already.
can get me the outline of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, something you should work
we,
with.
my opinion was, we had a pretty clear spreadsheet that we used to work on, and then
Yeah,
boards afterwards, or administrators afterwards, kind of
They
Made
didn't
it-
care.
made it a little harder to work with.
they did?
So I can take a stab at trying to make it clearer the way we used to have it. And
It was pretty good.
it used to fit on one sheet without becoming miniature characters that
So
Yeah,
it's like
they-
a cash flow sheet, so
Yeah.
you'd know what was coming up,
it
like when.
showed all of,
Yeah.
it showed that we had a burn rate of 55,000 a month, and it had the big bills that paid for things like the grader, the insurance bills.
Yeah,
Whopping ones that would surprise you if you weren't tracking it, so that
Right,
you didn't
of
have the
course.
cash in the bank at that time. That's
And it had
Gotcha.
room for our tax deposits too, so that would, you could see how
yeah,
they
yeah,
come in.
when it was coming, yeah.
Sure.
So
Okay.
you'll contact Camden, and we'll take it from there.
Yep.
And I have a growing list of things that I said I would do
Yeah,
now.
there's also gonna be a change, with our payroll, and where the payroll company's gonna deduct.
That's what I meant to ask
So
you.
they need to,
Tell us stories about the transition and that.
what do you mean?
How are we doing with that?
It's,
They're okay with the letter we
it's
wrote?
gonna take a while,
Yeah.
because you gotta get everything in there. It's a lot of the way that we have to set up, they have to go back in and modify it to our specific needs.
Right now, they don't need anything from us though.
They'll need W-4s soon, I'm sure. Just like we filled out W-4s for paychecks.
Yeah, I have them, they haven't asked for them, so you'll be the first to know if you
Okay.
need to complete another
Yeah.
one.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, they sent me an email, said my ADP, did everybody else get one of those?
I got one that I didn't get a chance to read. I just saw it this morning.
I think they went out to, everybody will be on the system, if you're receiving your pay through ADP. It's a way to access.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because your contact information is
Right.
put in just like paychecks. So you can either do it or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people
It's
did,
optional,
some people
yeah.
didn't.
Should we move on to signature items, seeing how we're talking about payroll companies?
Sure.
So at 9:38, we'll talk about the cancellation letter to Paychex for signature.
Yep, did you guys read it? Any modifications that you
Yeah.
could see?
No, man, I missed that, must have missed that. Do you have a copy there? I can just.
Yeah,
do a
this is,
quick-
don't write on it,
I'm not
because
gonna
that's
write
the
a
one
thing
that
on it,
Mark's
don't worry.
gonna sign.
Yeah.
So I'll make
Yeah.
a motion that we sign this cancellation letter,
Second.
All right,
Aye.
3-0 on signing it. So at 9:39, we'll move to commissioners' reports. I just talked about FEMA, we have another letter coming up. I'm taking my first glance at those 4 documents that they sent yesterday afternoon as a positive. In glimpsing around, they're talking about things like what kind of risk we are to the state of New Hampshire. I don't know if you saw any of that.
it's called us medium risk.
Medium risk. And if I glanced at the details of that, and it said that if we had any employee turnover or any question about the documentation, that we are agreeing that we could be audited to any level that they want to see how we're really operating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And I looked at that, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
They might do a better job than
Mm-hmm.
the auditors. So I'll know more about that after the meeting on
Yeah.
Thursday.
So did you have to resubmit an update to that Barden and Burdoff, that particular project?
Yes, I will. I'll distribute that to you guys so you know what these spreadsheets look like after they say that that one's okay.
Okay.
And then you'll see that we have to do one. I have to do one of these for everything that we do.
Yeah,
I did contact the vacuum truck company
Belmore?
that we got recommended to by.
yeah, that was under DPW. I brought it with me.
And they actually answered the phone. They took down all the information, made sure they got the spelling right. Then they gave the information to the owner, who called me back 2 hours later and talked to me like someone that actually wanted to do business, which it's been a few years since I talked to anybody over the phone that talked to you like they want you to be their customer. And he has trucks. I guess the company is in southern New Hampshire, in Bedford, but he has a truck and a team in Meredith.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that's not
Closer.
bad.
No. And he said that if we have more than 3 days' work, he would leave the truck here and have the team drive back and forth.
Oh,
And he wouldn't have a mobilization charge for getting the truck here if we do 3 days. And I believe that we have 3 days' work for them to do because the catch basins have never been done since they were installed.
So 3 days is a $12,000
Yep.
nut to bear. But
There's work that hasn't been done. And I do not know whether those 4 documents are spelling out that we can get reimbursed for culvert work. In following what we did all last summer, meeting every week and having them come up and inspect, my belief is that they have been saying all along that the culverts were filled by the 2023 storm, and they will reimburse 75% of the cost of cleaning them out. They won't do the catch basins because the catch basins were never reported by the village district as being filled up with sand from the ditches coming down the mountain. And I think Jeff told me there were 9 of them, including the big one at the bottom of Oak Ridge
Mm-hmm.
in front of number 2. I think that house is actually Otherwise Drive. Crossing number 1, Oak Ridge Road.
Yeah.
And I asked Jeff, what are the chances that it's washed sand coming through all that 6-inch rock, and that we can have them bring it right over to the beach because it's beach sand that just needs to dry out. So he said, that's probably something we should pull the cover off and look at. And I said, that's just too good to believe that we could get away like that with that. Because we want to put sand on the beach, and if it's right there, that would be
hey, free sand.
a beautiful
Yes.
thing. So I think we need to get
There's
all.
a permit process for that through the state.
Yeah, we know.
I was gonna say,
All too well.
we've done it.
Yes. And it's been 6 years that I know of since any sand's been added, which is one of the rules that they have.
Yes.
And there's rules about how it has to be 10 feet away from the borders of it and 10 feet away from the water. And we actually staked out on the beaches where sand could be deposited. Anyway, that's something we'll work on after they get the catch basin covers off and see what's in there. And the idea is the DPW wants to clean the culverts before they start to ditch because the debris that comes out of the culvert comes into the ditch. They don't want to have just cleaned it and then fill it up with what's coming out of a 20-foot culvert. They want to get these done first. So I was asking Jeff for them to give me an estimate of a date that they think is safe and early. So I can call this company and tell them, please book these 3 dates for us.
So, make sure I understand. Does the catch basin cleaning and the cleaning of the culverts are those done concurrently, or, okay?
The idea is that we're getting it done, and that's why I think it's pretty easy for us to say we can use 3 days.
Right.
Because I don't even know if they have a count of how many culverts are yet to be cleaned out from July. They worked on culverts in 2023 and 2024. The efficiency of them doing it is nowhere near as good as this truck that holds 1,800 gallons of water. It takes a lot of water to clean out a culvert. We have a whirl away. We have a pump, but it's the trucking of the water that we don't have good resources. They do one culvert, and they're out of the water that they filled up from the pond in the tank, and they have to stop and go and fill it up again. And
So, just so I'm clear, these guys not only do catch basins, they do culverts as well?
Mhm.
Okay.
yes, yep, good point.
So you're still waiting on Jeff to kind of give you an idea?
Yeah, I think if you like the concept of doing this and you want to approve that we're going to do this contract with this guy, then it's based on knowing that I need Jeff to tell me a safe date to book them, because I know what will happen is if we put it off, they'll tell us that they're booked up, and now
Right.
we're delaying everything with FEMA. And I'm trying, if this is step one, I want to nail step one as soon as possible.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we discuss and vote to approve pursuing a contract with Belmore for his vacuum truck for 3 days.
Second.
Any further discussion on that?
No.
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0 will pursue a contract after we get a date from the DPW.
Okay, so you don't want to sign this yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I need the date, I need to talk to him and say
Yeah.
the date's good, then I
Okay,
think I want to sign it.
sure.
Thanks for doing that. I'm working on the locks. I want to discuss keys for that locking system at another time. And it's a matter of how many times I have to run back and forth to Intervale. And I'm trying to reduce that. Having the extra lock has been working out well for me.
Good.
So I might conclude that it's worth the investment in yet another lock just to make it easy to get this project done. And you're familiar that these locks are not only push button, but they have a key in it?
Yes.
Do you know about the key?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's unclear what the current state of the keys and locks are on these, which I want to talk about offline too.
Mhm.
All right. I think that's all I have. You have anything, Woody?
Doug, I did a quick review of your minutes from the annual meeting. I thought they were great. I have to go over them again to see if I find any like minor stuff like a spelling, which I doubt there is, or something like that. But really good job. It all sort of made sense to me this year. I know you did them last year, but last year, you recall at this time, we were, it was not a good time. Things are a little calmer this year, and your meeting minutes just captured the meeting perfectly, so it's a great historical document. Thank you.
Did you use the transcript from YouTube?
I could not find that
Me neither.
for the district annual meeting.
I couldn't either.
When it first went on YouTube, I couldn't find it, and then a few days later, I could find it. There's 3 dots. There's a 3-dot icon
Right.
below the actual
Or on the right.
recorder.
Yeah,
If you click on that, it may give you the option of pulling up the transcript.
yeah, I tried that, still didn't find it.
I'll look to see. I'll take a screenshot and send it to you. Since I first told you about it, I talked to the administrators upstairs. They are using it, and there are software packages that you can buy, but they say if you cut and paste it into GBT chat, it's really incredible to see what that little AI program does with the transcript. So I thought if you have idle time and you want to compare what that does against what you had to
What
do,
is that?
blood, sweat, and tears. Thanks for doing that. Thanks for doing your job.
Welcome.
And then I got one more
I
thing.
did, I
Oh.
did attach the handouts to the back of the minutes.
You
I don't
did,
think I
yeah.
did that last year, and it occurred to me that somebody in the minutes were referring to stuff in those documents.
Yeah.
The portal, for example, without any ability for the people to get at it, maybe. So I thought it might be good to just attach those.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a
And the
great
budget
idea.
as well.
I didn't recall if you did that last year. Just like I said, last year's just a blur. It's like,
Get through it.
yeah.
Yeah. We could certainly put that together that way on the website and for historical But I don't think the Department of Revenue is gonna want it that way. They're gonna want the minutes only.
You can just strip off those, or I can send you another version if it's, I can strip it off.
Because it wasn't part of the warrant.
Correct.
Yeah.
They weren't part of the warrant, so.
Okay, I just wrote another copy without.
What else do you have, Widow?
So I just saw that the tests on Muddy Beach.
Yeah.
Do we have to send out another letter? Or,
Well,
The
we haven't
Department
been
of-
notified yet. but
Yeah, I
it's
was gonna say-
coming.
Yeah, we probably will.
I was gonna say the Department of, DES will let us know.
Okay.
Let's talk about that in the middle of the
Yeah,
report.
I think when we sent out two letters before, they give you just a little itty bitty space as to what we are doing to remediate the situation, and you can't really effectively communicate everything we sort of talked about, but very few people know about.
I think we need a one-sheet white paper that says what the big picture is
Yes.
with this.
I was thinking
Um,
something like that.
And we could get into great detail of it, but I think our first round should be something that's easily read and shows where we are with Muddy Beach. And maybe we should talk about that today and confirm amongst the three of us, because we've done it in little pieces
Mm-hmm.
as we talk to the water operator, and we haven't talked to the engineer. We should have the engineer here soon, because we have a list of things
Yes.
to talk
Yes.
about with him. But in the big picture, we voted to not use the Muddy Beach pump house in the beginning of November.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of November, the water operator had stopped using the Muddy Beach for several reasons. As of November 26th, we stopped distributing any water from that facility into the system. We were focused on getting a second gravel packed municipal well installed at the DPW 1 facility, and we named the original one DPW Well A,
Mm-hmm.
and the new one will be called B.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that's not going to happen instantly, that it's going to take permitting by the state, an engineering design, and then hiring various companies to get the well installed. And I'm familiar with this because I did this back in 1995 to get DPWA in there. And in the middle of that, the water operator talked about the pump that's in DPWA needing to be replaced
Mm-hmm.
because he's seeing ground fault. I think that's what he saw. He saw
Yeah,
electronic failures and suspects the pump. He says the pump is at the end of its natural life expectancy.
7 years.
And it would be good for us to get ahead of it and switch that pump out
Yeah.
before it actually failed dead.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires us to have Muddy Beach covering for DPWA being down for however long it takes them to get the old pump out and get the new pump in, which he says could be a couple of days.
Yeah, because they have to, once they have the new pump in, they have to test it and make sure that everything's clean, and so that's a day, at least a day delay
We have the pump,
before
right?
it comes back on.
We have the pump. You saw it
Yes,
in storage.
yes, but when they put the new one into the well, they have to test it to make sure that nothing, no contaminants are there. And that's gonna be, and chlorinated, so that's what's gonna be the delay, is that process to get it tested, and then you have to wait for the results to come in, and it's a day or so for that to happen.
And he was setting expectations that it could be 3 days.
Yes.
So in that time, we need a source of water, and our backup well happens to be Muddy Beach. So we intend on keeping it down, not using it, and plan this out. And hopefully, we can time this that DPWA is producing until the day we say we're ready to have them start to change this out, and that we have a processing system installed at Muddy Beach so that we're not shipping uranium levels into the system. So that means we have to invest in Muddy Beach that has several problems, and we'd like to do away with Muddy Beach and have DPWB be the backup for it. In the meantime, we have to put a cement floor in, we have to buy osmosis equipment, and get Muddy Beach ready to produce water that has below the minimum, the limit of uranium in it. Is that your understanding? Is
Kind of, but let me just ask,
Yep.
just based on, we know that if we have an area-wide power outage, and if it's lucky enough to happen at a non-peak time of the year when not a lot of people other than full-time residents are here, you still get water throughout the system for, what, a day? Maybe longer? And some parts will get water longer than other parts.
because of the storage.
Right. So then extrapolating from that, let's say you knew you were going to swap out the pump. Forget about Muddy Beach for the moment. Anything being done to that. You can preload your tanks high up on the hill to be even fuller than normal. So you've got a greater water supply than what would normally be carried there on a regular day.
Right. But it wouldn't last for 3 days.
Okay, wouldn't last for 3 days. But if at some point then we had to, then the water's getting low, bring on Muddy Beach, would there still be a certain amount of dilution that would probably bring the uranium levels down to an acceptable level?
Not at your house.
Not at my
Yeah.
house?
You'd be drinking straight out of Muddy Beach.
Yeah.
Okay, so something if we sent letters to everybody saying that we highly advise that during this
Don't drink the
3
water
days
during this
period,
3 day?
don't
Yeah.
drink the water, just use bottled water. It's okay to shower in it. You're not going to glow from that, but just don't drink it.
I don't know whether people would say, well, what is it like radon that you don't want to take a shower in it and breathe in the mist of a hot shower? That I don't know enough about the uranium content. Uranium in the water is different than radon that's coming out of the ground. Radon is a gas, and uranium is actual particles in the water. Is my understanding.
Right.
So I don't know the answer to that. We could ask about recommending bottled water. Are you
Or we could
hinting
put
at,
boil
can we
water.
get around actually buying the osmosis equipment?
Because that's going to be that's
It's a
going
big
to be
throwaway
that's going to be
investment.
expensive,
Yeah.
I know.
huge expense. I mean, if we're going to do
And
that, we might as well just keep Muddy Beach as a secondary source if we're
Exactly.
going to go through all that
Well,
expense.
except you gotta go back over our list of all the other problems it has with it, like,
Yeah.
they don't know why the whole system doesn't work in the wintertime.
Right.
I mean, the SCADA system.
The
Yep.
SCADA
Yeah,
system,
the com.
we can't ask Muddy Beach to deliver water.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, there's other issues besides that.
now I started looking at the lowest cost way that we could get Muddy Beach to produce water that doesn't exceed the limit. And I was thinking, can we put a pressure treated floor in, not pour concrete in? Is there a difference in the cost of that? And if we buy the osmosis equipment and only use it for a little while, for a year or two, worst case, to get DPWB installed, then is there a resale value of the osmosis equipment? And then, is there a reason for us to keep Muddy Beach around even after we have B up and running as a backup well?
Not if it's contaminated.
Well,
Or if it's not good, if it's not high quality water, how's that?
so right now, the new understanding is the state lets us keep it as a backup well as long as we keep testing it.
Right.
So if we had the equipment installed because we decided that we really need to do that, even though it's a huge investment for something we wish we didn't have to use for a long time,
Right. I also got the sense.
then we made the investment, do we make the investment of continuing to test it but not send anything into the system from it? Should we ever come into a situation that A and B can't deliver,
Mm-hmm.
and it's worth continuing to test it and reporting it, and everybody gets used to the fact it's not going to exceed the limit because we have made the investment in the filtration system.
Right.
And we're not spending a fortune sending the waste product, which is real expensive. The uranium that we filtered out of it is, I think Ian said, $700 a cubic foot of this waste material.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not using it, but we're reporting the testing of it. That we're paying him to turn the well pumps on, getting a sample, but still not sending it into the system, even though it's acceptable to send it into the system, because we don't want to create the waste by running it.
Right.
That's the way I'm thinking about it, and need to talk to you guys about
Right. But
that
I,
imagery.
but I also got the sense from Ian that he was, sort of. I thought he was kind of saying, you guys need to think about swapping out the pump at a well pretty darn soon.
Yes.
Because we was already seeing levels going down of gallons per minute, and it sounded like it would take long. It may take, even if we decided to go the Muddy Root Beach with uranium scrubbing equipment, that may take a while. And
Yes.
I think he's more eager to get that pump swapped out. So that's why I was bringing up.
But he also suggested that we have the osmosis system working, that we're using Muddy Beach to cover for no water coming out of DPW at all, while he fixes this.
Right. Let's use 3 days as the benchmark. Okay. That's why I'm saying, is there a way we can do this without investing in the Muddy Beach and be okay? So I don't know. I'm not the expert here. It's just I propose some questions as to
Yeah.
how much water can we load up on the system so that it lasts for a day or two, and then at some point we have to bring Muddy Beach on. But if we've sent out letters well in advance to everyone, letting know this is what we're doing, why we're doing it, and that we advise using bottled water for this particular time of day, particular period of time.
Well, I was hoping that we would decide today that we're officially moving forward with investing in Muddy Beach, because we can't delay that. If the plan is that we're going to rely on Muddy Beach distributing into the system while the changing the pump happens at DBWA. Now, if we need the answer to the question you're asking is, can we suggest that people
Not drink the water.
don't drink the water during this 3-day period? Who do we think would answer that question? If we put-
DES.
Yes, I was gonna say, if we ask Nick, he's gonna turn around and ask DES.
Right.
We have the contact name, Nick gave us the name, saying, I thought he was suggesting if you wanna talk to them directly, here's the guy. So, we can make a motion that we contact this guy. And maybe you contact the guy, so that you can ask the questions without anybody else getting in the way of
Okay.
the source of your answers.
And
And in parallel, vote to move forward with investing in Muddy Beach? Or do you want to delay it a week to see if you can get the answers you want, to see if it's necessary to invest in Muddy Beach?
Well, I have another question. Is if we decide to go forward with Muddy Beach, is it as simple as just saying, Ian, make it happen, or is this going to require an engineering design? I mean, which becomes a whole different.
oh, you mean as far as putting the equipment in?
Yeah.
Oh, for Muddy
Oh.
Beach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
He never said that he needed a design,
No.
Who?
Ian.
Ian.
I asked, I said, does it need a whole new electrical design? Because I don't know what these systems need for power and what we have there and where you plug it in.
And I really don't want to invest into that type of a system, uranium system. To me, it's just a waste.
Ongoing.
All right. So
Because we
if-
do have a long term, but what I don't know is if the uranium is high, if it's, was the primary order, and I don't recall, I know it was not that long ago, but I don't recall, was the primary thing, would it be a boil order? In which case, we can voluntarily put the system under a boil order for that 5 days or 3 days.
I think boil is when there's bacteria that needs to
Yeah.
be
Well,
killed.
see, that's what I said.
I don't think you kill
I said,
uranium
I
with
don't,
boil.
I don't know.
Right.
I think you do.
That's,
And I think those normal filtration people can buy that, whatever you can put in your sinks. That doesn't do it. But I'm thinking if we can load up the system so there's a couple of days of good water, and then if we have to bring Muddy Beach on, it's going to get diluted with what's already in the system. So maybe at the end, it's not going to exceed or not really exceed the minimum levels that set off the, the alarms.
The ideal time of the year to rely on storage is when
Now.
the bleeders get shut off and the village is quiet as far as number of people in it. So we're coming up on it. It's
So
gonna
before
happen too
Memorial
fast.
Day.
It's gonna happen too fast for us to be able to use that.
Well, wait a minute. Everything sort of quiets down again after Labor Day. Until leaf peeping season. There's a couple week window in there that things are very, very quiet.
Not as much, but it does, yes. The deadest time is about to happen.
What time?
Deadest time. The quietest time. The least number of people
Mud season.
using
season.
water in Otherwise is, no, it's
From now till
it's
Memorial
actually
Day.
mud season's
Is it
over.
really?
Yeah, the end of mud season to,
Black fly season, I'll
Yeah.
call it.
yeah,
Which
to
is-
Memorial Day.
Wow.
April 22nd is when the black flies come.
So, we already have the pump. It's a matter of getting the, was it a company with the crane, is it getting lined up? And Ian's crew. That's pretty much it, right? All right. So, you're saying black fly season commences around April 22nd?
Beginning of next month,
Yeah.
regular schedule. It's Nick that we want to get in here next.
Oh.
Shouldn't hit my hand in front of my face.
20
It's Nick that we want to get in.
The 22nd is 4 weeks from today. And then you have one, well, yeah, and then where's Memorial Day?
Well, it's funny, in the last few years,
2, 3.
there hasn't been that much. Historically, going to Memorial Day was a big time here, and that was the beginning, but since school goes so late now, that sort of shifted a little bit.
We have 8 weeks.
It's more into June.
We have 8 weeks between today and the week before Memorial Day weekend.
There's also been this thing where people want to come here during peak times and then it would drop off dead. And that has changed slowly over the years where people want to get away from their primary residence all year round. I mean, it's really incredible the difference in
Well,
the
COVID
dead
did
periods
that.
are much smaller than they used to be. But what I got out of listening to you two is that you both seem to agree that you like to avoid investing in Muddy Beach.
Yeah.
If at all possible.
If at all possible.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of worked through that because I was heading that into that until Ian talked about needing to use it. And it's this dilemma of the sooner we're ready to let him do Muddy Beach DPW A, the better off everyone's going to be.
And
We don't have time to really mess around with this, so I thought we have to. But I'm open to listening to how you want to get around investing in Muddy Beach because that's thrown away money, really.
Yeah.
it is, and that's my real, and if we know we're gonna be not compliant with certain testings, because our
We're going to
testing.
do the test. We're not uncompliant.
No, I mean,
The result of the,
the results of
has
the
us
test
over the limit.
are over limit. The process was send a letter. They didn't have us do anything.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't have us do anything. It's just send that letter. So everyone's notified.
You
So
know?
now we're back to the letter in the single sheet white paper that
Yeah.
explains what we're doing.
And explaining to people that,
Right.
our suggestion would be to use bottled water for this time while we're
Right.
doing
They're
this or
not
something.
telling
So as of today, we agree that we want to write a white paper.
Yes.
If we had to write the white paper now, it would be 25 pages and it'd be very confusing because we need answers. That
Right.
we're going to hold off deciding that we're going to invest any money in Muddy Beach until we get the answers of
From
whether-
DES.
And if you don't have the name of the person that said okay to letting us head towards DPWB being this backup well, and just said, you don't have to use Muddy Beach if you don't need it. But you do have to keep testing it and classify it as an active well.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have that guy's contact info.
No, I don't have that guy's
I will
contact
send that to you, and
Okay.
you're taking it on that you're gonna talk to this guy.
I'm gonna talk to him and say, this is our plan, does this sound kosher to you? Okay? Because we really don't wanna invest all this money in the uranium equipment if we don't have to.
Do you wanna, once you have the information, set up a conference call with the guy? And we could post it as a commissioners meeting, we could do it at the office, all three of us. And that way, any other questions or concerns that come up, we could address it at that point. So the initial contact would be more along the lines of, okay, what's your schedule like, and would we be able to
I think that would be the best
do
way.
a conference, and then,
also, I would ask that Ian be at that, because it's gonna be, Ian, we need to jump on, we have, between now and just before Memorial Day, we have 8 weeks to make this happen. If DES says, yes, you can do that, that sounds like a good plan.
I was gonna say, I don't know if we definitely need the
They may shoot
water
us down.
operator there, but I think the three of us should be there, you know, if,
Oh, yeah, at a
This
minimum,
is
at
just-
minimum, yeah.
This is just to replace the pump we're talking about.
Yeah, that's all we're talking about, replacing the pump.
Right.
But how do we keep the rest of the system knowing that it'll work for a while on its own, but then we may have to replenish it from Muddy Beach
We're
toward
not
the end
just,
of
I
that.
don't think we're just replacing the pump. This is gonna be the backup system until well B is installed and up and running.
Well, yeah,
Wait, what do you mean? We're swapping out the existing pump for a new pump at DPWA, well A.
We're looking for the answer of how to use Muddy Beach for those 3 days. But we also need to have a backup well until B is installed and is the backup well.
right, and at this point, as far as we know, DES is saying they're okay with us not so much, not using Muddy Beach, but having it there
as the second
as
period.
the backup.
Yeah.
So it would be an emergency situation only that we would actually put it into play for the next couple days,
I think-
next couple years.
We should probably acknowledge as a group that things changed. We were okay, and Ian was okay with us coming up to the limit and going back down again until we got to November where it went up over the limit 2 testing periods in a row.
mhm.
And we had already decided that our strategy was to move away from Muddy Beach.
Yeah.
What's changed since then is the latest test results, which is making Muddy Beach look much worse than it
Yes.
has
And
all last year.
did that say, was that both?
Yes.
Yes,
Or
both-
was it
both
a
wells.
blended?
It
No.
was both.
It was
both
both.
wells. They
It was both
tested
wells.
That's
Okay.
what I saw. Not only both, but one of them was extreme.
Was
Yes.
really bad.
Yes.
It was way up there.
So that
You know?
changed that may change DES's attitude about keeping Muddy Beach shut off and only using it if you absolutely had to, towards they might have a different opinion now, because I have a different opinion now.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause if-
But I think we're talking about it's sort of two different things. I guess I'm concerned about, Ian seemed to express concern that the existing pump at well A is getting old.
Yeah.
And we want to swap that out before it substantially reduces its or fails outright.
Right.
I mean, that's the biggest concern
Yeah.
right now for me.
And that's why I thought we'd come in today's meeting and just have this discussion and see whether we want to move quickly on getting Muddy Beach capable of producing acceptable water. But now we're going to have you, if we're gonna have the conference call,
Mhm.
instead of delaying it, why don't I contact this guy? Because now I'm only asking him for a time that he can be on a
Okay.
Conference call.
video conference,
Yeah.
yes.
Uh-huh.
Like, and if he can do it tomorrow, and we're all available, or as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So if we had the answer from him this week,
Yeah, and then we could make much better decisions.
Absolutely, absolutely.
so
You
we're not
know?
ready to write the white paper yet. We're not ready to, let's say, we're definitely investing in Muddy Beach.
Yeah,
I'll contact this guy, get a date when he can conference with us, and get back to you guys and see if you can make it and have it all work.
I think our first problem is just swapping out the existing pump with
Yes.
the spare. The second problem is then,
Backup.
what do we do with Muddy Beach between, once that new pump is in, and between getting a new DPW well being?
Right.
If he accepts the idea of us using Muddy Beach and telling people, get bottled water during this period, then that might be acceptable when, for another reason, that we have to use a backup. Even after we put the new pump into well A,
Right,
the
if
same
something
thing can
happened,
apply.
if something happened that, something happened at Jungfrau, so we weren't sending water to Rhinebeck,
Yeah.
because there's multiple factors that, can affect the way the water flow is gonna happen across the entire district,
Right, but another reason, just, it's chump change in the big scheme of things, but if they're okay with our plan of, charging up our system and then just bringing on Muddy Beach when absolutely necessary during the 3-day swap out of the pump, and we have to do that within this 8-week period between now and just before Memorial Day, I believe we're gonna have to send out this letter anyway. We can just attach a letter saying, this date is when we recommend you using bottled water, this is the reason why. We don't have to go into all these other things, this white paper stuff, we just can explain, we're swapping out the pump.
We've never officially got notification that we couldn't use Muddy Beach.
Correct.
Right. Well,
So-
these test reports just came
Well-
out, so who knows what's,
Well, they could change that.
yes,
Right.
Depending on how they,
yeah.
Yeah, but we don't want to use it.
But
Yeah.
I have a
'cause I
feeling
don't-
we're
I
gonna have
don't
to send
like
out a letter
stuff
anyway,
using
so we might as well just piggyback on top of that letter, what we're doing.
Okay, so we have a plan, I'm gonna contact and get back to you
Yeah.
guys, and we'll post a meeting,
Yeah.
if hopefully as soon as possible, and
Yep.
we'll get the answers from him and go from there.
Yeah.
All right,
okay, so you did start that whole thing with a motion.
and we're tabling that motion.
Okay.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we, do we need that? I'll make a motion
No.
that we're gonna do
No.
a group, no?
No,
We're
we
gonna
just
call, maybe we'll
tabled
get,
it.
that's right, we're
Yeah.
doing a meeting.
No,
Okay.
no, Mark had made a motion that we started putting money into Muddy Beach.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking that, I was talking about getting on a call with a DES guy,
Right.
floating our plan past him and
Right.
see if he thinks it's kosher or not.
So that will start with the posting of the meeting, once we know when the DES guy can
Yep.
meet with us on the video. Where are we with, well, it's still your report.
Yeah,
Where are
it's
we
still
with
what I-
Jeff and his phone? Does Jeff have the phone yet?
No, it's still at the office. Jeff knows he needs to come in and take care of that.
But Wood has done all his part for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, the phone's there, just, Jeff needs to just go over and go, whatever the
Activate
instructions
it.
are, to
Right.
port his number over to us, so
Correct.
why don't we try and encourage him to get that done this week? Once
do.
all the snow
Every time
situation
I talk to him.
is squared away. We're not getting more snow this week, are we?
Yes, we are.
We are?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we might get some more tomorrow and some towards the end of the week or Saturday or
He's had-
something.
Oh, isn't that special?
He's had
Yeah.
some other issues.
Well, Weatherbug doesn't say so. Well, the next storm Weatherbug says is on Saturday, possible.
Yeah.
Between now and then, it says it's partly sunny every day.
Before we move off the audit report, last week after the meeting was recessed so that we could go to the Rhinebeck Tower, water tower. We met the water operator and he put a ladder up and we went up to the top of the tower. That was two people from the water operators company and Wooder and I. And we looked into the tank. The tank had no ice in it. And my conclusion was that we were shipping 50-degree plus water into that tank. And even though it was cold this winter and there very well may have been ice, the warm water had melted it by the time we got up there. So then Ian suggested we come back at the end of January next year when it's 20 below and a howling wind and climb up on top of that.
I'm there.
Ice.
I want to see a big giant ice cube bobbing up and down.
So why did you need to see that?
We wanted to see if there was ice.
Oh,
Because
just
nobody
in
had ever
general?
looked to see,
Okay.
and we were talking about it.
All right.
And would have asked a question, and I don't think the conversation standing on the top of a tower in a 2-foot wide foot area with this big door open where you could fall into a 120,000 gallon tank of water or fall backwards off the tower.
Yeah.
We weren't looking to stay up there too long.
No.
But the thought about it later is that you asked a question that Paul Flewitt, the engineer, answered for me 30 years ago. You asked, why is the water level so low in the tank?
Yeah,
You
there was a lot of
expected to
space
see-
above it, yes, a lot of air.
So here's the answer. You don't want to cycle pumps on and off.
Oh.
So the SCADA system should let the water go down so that you're only turning the pipe on and you're running, once you turn the pipe on, you want to run it and run it and run it as long as you can and then shut it off. Turning a pump on, turning it off, shortens the life of a pump. It was explained to me a long time ago by the engineer. So originally he had it set up so that, picture that the DPW well would produce 178 gallons a minute. That's pushing it up against the head loss, 6,800 feet to get it to Jungfrau. Jungfrau has a smaller tank by Idlewild standards. I think it's a 5,000 gallon tank at Jungfrau. So it's not going to take much to fill that tank. So Fluid had to set it up so that when Rhineac wanted water, it asked Jungfrau. When Jungfrau needed water, it asked DPW-1A. DPW-1A could push 6 inches of water, 6-inch main, 178 gallons a minute up in to fill that tank. Fluid had it set up so that where possible, the Jungfrau pumps would be pumping the water out of that tank as DPW-1 is putting the water on.
Yeah.
So these pumps are on and pushing water almost like straight through. It didn't matter what the size of Jungfrau was. He had it calculated that the Jungfrau pumps were taking it out at this rate, and DPW-A was sending it to Jungfrau at this rate. So the water was flowing through and going straight up until Rhineac was filled. So you got to picture that. So we should have waited, standing on 2-foot wide thing up there, until Jungfrau actually got to the point of wanting water, and then stood there and watched Jungfrau fill it. But the conversation went by your question, and we decided to get down off that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, but I looked down and I saw the actual fill pipe, which was up a certain level, and then the feed pipe to the rest of the system, which was at the bottom. Okay? So between where that fill pipe was, there was still a good number, I don't know, 10 feet of just would be nothing but air, wasted space. I kind of thought that tank just filled up close to the top, and you always had like a huge supply of water there.
No. Well, the whole idea is you don't want the pumps to come back on until it can stay on long
Right.
enough. So the SCADA system is waiting for it to get down below what we were seeing
Yeah.
before it even asked Jungfrau to start
Okay.
delivering.
Okay.
And Rhineac doesn't care what Jungfrau is asking for DPW-A for, or Muddy Beach. We have it now that it's not asking Muddy Beach, because Muddy Beach is getting a request now, but Ian has it shut off, that Muddy Beach says, I hear no evil, I see no evil, I'm not
Doesn't do it.
responding to the SCADA system delivering water.
Okay.
That's how it's all
All
working.
right. But I also asked another question when we were up there, because your concern was, since this was a water tower, whereas the old tank used to be pretty much buried in the earth, so you weren't worrying about freezing up so much. I was asking, why can't we partially bury this tank, especially we're going to be getting a lot of fill from all this work we're going to be doing around the district. Is there anything that I'm not saying bury the entire tank, but you could bury, let's say, 1/2 of it, the back half, or maybe 3/4 of it, if it's allowable, to just create a thermal insulation for the tank itself. I don't know if that's allowable now, but
Well, I know it's not the way they're designed.
No, that's the first thing. They might have reasons that they need to inspect the tower.
Right.
And you can't do that if you've got it buried.
Right.
And by the way, we did notice hairline cracks in the
Gunite?
gunite. It's the
Uh-huh.
covering of it. That's not the tank itself. So, but we did notice these little,
Yeah?
and that can be fixed with paint.
Oh,
No,
jeez.
no, you can hide it with paint.
Right.
You can't fix it that way.
Getting back to the inspection, I mean, most of our tanks are buried anyway. You can't inspect other than the front side of them.
Or
So,
we
Of
inspect
course
the
you can.
inside.
what?
You get in them.
You have to get in them, drain them and get in them.
You'll always be able to get into this tank.
Yes.
Right.
I'm not talking about burying the top of it. I'm talking about just
But
creating
because it's a tower, the inspection is different. We don't need to see the outside of the buried tanks. We need to see the inside of them.
Right,
And we measure the thickness of the walls once we're in there.
right.
Right.
And we had people doing it in a non-qualified way years ago, which was a separate problem. But I think it's different with the tank. One of these tanks is that you have to see the outside of the tank.
Okay. So
I
all of
think-
it, all of it
okay.
has to be visible.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing of that.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to use all of our fill to bury the tank and keep it warm.
Yeah.
And we should ask somebody that question. I'm not sure we asked Nick that question. I think we'd be going back to the tank company, the tower company.
Yeah.
And I think their answer would be, it was easier for them to say no, because
Probably.
they've never seen anybody do it. And don't want to be responsible for saying yes.
Okay, well, I did propose that question. It seemed like
But we can ask-
solve a couple problems.
Remember to ask the
if it was
DES
okay.
guy, because he might know of what people have done with those
Yeah.
before.
Okay.
Because he's looking at the whole state, at least half the state. That was our adventure to the tank,
Yeah, it was fun.
to the tower.
When I stuck my head down and started talking, the echoes
Yeah.
inside the tank was just phenomenal.
And then Ian started talking away from the tank, and it was bouncing off the house, and it was
Yes,
echoing. It
going out
was
towards
very
Chicago.
eerie. when we got
Weird.
there.
Yeah.
Anything else in yours?
Nope, 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 nope.
No, I think we're good at this point. So,
You're all set?
You're all,
Yeah.
Okay. So at 10:27, yep, 10:27, we have no correspondence. Any public comments, public appearance?
Just a quick one, did the lease get taken care of
Printer.
for the
Copier.
copier partner?
yeah, I didn't get anything back from him.
Okay.
I sent it over and said, let's,
Just signed and sent?
yeah,
Okay, perfect,
haven't heard anything, so
great.
Non-agenda
I'm
items?
expecting a bill.
Any other public comments, non-agenda items? Next would be a motion to adjourn at 10:28.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to adjourn,
second.
Aye.
Aye.
3-0 on adjourning at 10:28. Thank you, Carol.